order. It is 7:06. The first order of business is the approval of our agenda, and get a motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Mary Beth, seconded by Carrie. Any amendments, discussion? All those in favor? Aye. That is unanimous. The next item is the communications to the school facility utilization task force. So we did get one email from Heather Schweikert. I'm not sure I'm saying that properly. Her email came in and was writing to support keeping Bakerville open with a backup alternative that if it's not cost effective and they wish for there to be a brand new pre-K through 6 school to be built so that all the kids in town can go to school. So this will be updated on the website as part of the public record. Moving on to item C, the chair's report. So we had our second informational meeting on May 19th. It was about, I would say, not evenly attended with the first one, although it was largely a different set of people. We covered the same content that we did in the prior one. And we had no new substantive questions I would say came to light during that discussion, but we appreciate everybody. We hope it was informational for the people who were able to attend. And yeah, anybody who has any feedback or has any other questions about going on, please contact us.
How many, sorry if you said it already, how many people were in attendance?
I'm sorry?
How many people were in attendance?
There were 9.
Okay.
Yeah. The other thing that I just want to make a note of for everybody here is that this is a little bit of, we'll be operating a little bit differently moving forward. So Town Hall sent out a memo to all of the public boards in town saying that attachments will no longer be accepted with agendas or minutes for any of the meetings moving forward. The reason I'm making that relevant here is that because we have been doing that, and in the spirit of transparency, I want to make sure that everybody knows that they're not being attached for any reason other than just trying to limit the amount of extra work that Town Hall is doing. So all of our minutes and agendas moving forward will have a link to the website. The website will still have all the information that was previously available there, so we'll still make it available. Just don't rely on the email to access it. You will have to go to the website to get all of the information.
And just if I can expand on that, because it wasn't necessarily the town hall not wanting to scan the documents or the time required, but it's no longer required from the Freedom of Information Act. And the attachments and minutes should not be 100% absolute in lieu of attendance. And that's what a lot of the meetings were doing, was trying to attach everything. And then also, historically speaking, fast forward 20 years from now, the attachments don't necessarily apply any relevancy to the actual meeting content itself. A lot of times they have links, those links won't actually be valid anymore. So it was also tightening up historical accuracy to what the minutes are intended to be.
Yeah, I think it's the right move for the town. And again, we're not the only ones who will be changing things moving forward, but for the purposes of what we've been trying to do, I wanted to make sure that was clear because that's not a communication that the entire town is going to see. So thanks for clarification on that. That is the end of my report for right now. I'm going to move on to item D, routine business. So the first order here is the approval of our minutes from May 13th, which were attached in the agenda. You guys should have a paper copy of it here. We'll take a motion to approve for discussion.
Motion to approve for discussion?
So moved by Sam. Seconded by Carmen. Any discussion?
The only thing I noted, let's see if I can find it here. So there's a line. I thought we talked about doing summer meetings. Where was that paragraph? Because I know you agreed to discuss it, but the meeting minutes said you agreed for summer meeting, and then it said it would be discussed. So I know you didn't technically agree, but you agreed to discuss it at the next meeting.
Got it. And
Yeah, where was that paragraph? I thought it was too.
oh, got it. Okay. Thank you. Ms. Young agreed to discuss scheduling, to add, I want to say agreed to add scheduling additional meetings to be discussed at the next meeting. I'll figure out the wording of that, but that should be the spirit of what that was, and we are going to discuss that today, so.
Right, you just agreed to discuss
Yes,
it.
thank you. We'll check with Elizabeth to make that notation.
I just have one question under option A. On the first line, it says, if we renovate as new, including interior renovations, the goal will be to keep portables if an addition is added.
While, it doesn't say while in addition is,
That's during renovation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
in addition.
Can you guys talk louder? No one else can hear you. Sorry.
Yes, I will try.
Thank you.
No
I
worries.
will try to.
So, was that Elizabeth? Right now, the draft minutes say that the goal would be to keep the portables at Bakerville. If an addition is added, the real plan is that the goal would be to keep the portables open and available for education if we decide to renovate down that path, which would make it easier basically for us to not have to displace those students if we decided to add an addition to Bakerville.
Right, so just during renovation.
Yeah, during renovations, and then the portables need to go.
Kristen, would be all right if they moved forward, if they can't hear us?
I think it was the owl that was talking.
Or was it?
Can you guys hear us okay?
No, that was me. None of us could hear you guys, like.
Yeah.
That was
everybody could
Taylor.
hear you.
Oh,
That's
okay.
okay. That was better.
Got it, okay.
I mean,
This is the first time anybody's told me that I've been too quiet, so that's.
Yeah,
okay.
every other time, you got shots.
All right, so 2 amendments to the minutes, anything else? I will have Elizabeth make those amendments, and then we can take a look at the final versions at the next meeting, so I'll table approving them for right now. Does everybody agree with that, or just so we can have the record clarified?
I think typically you approve the minutes as amended.
As amended, okay.
And then, I mean, you don't actually go back in and amend the minutes, you just note it in tonight's meeting that those are recommendations from the previous meeting minutes.
Got it, okay.
Make a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
Motion to approve the minutes as amended by Mary Beth, seconded by Alicia. All those in favor? Aye, that is unanimous. You can abstain. John will abstain from that vote because he was not here.
would you rather I abstain as long as I was virtual?
You were virtual, you were here. That counts as being, if you were
Okay,
participating in the meeting virtually, it's still,
Okay.
John was not there for the live content.
Yeah, I caught the recording afterward, but not the live, so.
Great. I'm going to move over to checking in on the timeline. How are we going, Michelle?
We are doing well. When we put this timeline together, it was a good guess. So obviously, we're happy to keep moving forward, extending into the summer. It was just kind of an end point with the school year, but, we're not there yet, so I'm happy to keep going with you all. That makes sense.
I have an item under new business to review the current meeting schedule, so as of right now, we're on track as expected. So that I think will be good for the timeline update. All right. Moving on to item E, new business updates from Silver Cliff Facility.
Sure, so obviously we've been working on some of the test bits that we'll review later, but we also sent you the energy use intensity report. This is what our engineers put together, looking at the energy usage at your 3 schools. We obtained energy bills, oil, propane, and electricity for a whole year. And they do their math with all of that to come up with an EUI, which is the ratio of energy consumption of a building with the gross square footage. So the national median EUI is 45.2, and the national 75th percentile is a 59.8. Bakerville came in at 76.49, which is higher, which is worse, more energy consumption. But New Hartford came in at a 99.79, so even worse at New Hartford. And then Antolini came in at a 68.05. And when we look at that also to compare against regional education EUI, so more in the Northeast, they're looking at a 73.2 to compare that. So really, the main conclusion is that New Hartford is your energy hub, and that's due to your steam heat your lack of insulated pipes, lack of insulated walls, older roof, so all that energy is coming out of the building. Obviously, moving forward with renovations, we can work on improving those. You know, we can't model that and show you that information exactly, but through any of these grants that we've been talking about, we do have to have high performance for our buildings, which take it above the code. So that'll greatly improve. You know, if we were working with New Hartford, we would insulate those walls. You would lose inches of classroom space, but you would improve the energy envelope of the building. They did factor in on a table, like if you did lighting upgrades and switched to condensing boilers, Bakerville then goes to a 67.76, New Hartford goes to an 87.05, and Angelini would go to a 59.65. So they all do improve with, you know, those smaller items even, so.
The improvement for New Hartford Elementary, are you including a new roof with that calculation?
Not in this, no. This is based on the existing year that we just evaluated.
No, I mean, you have a chart for improvements. Now, New Hartford Elementary gets to like 80-something, 80.
Yeah, so that's just for lighting upgrades
Right.
and condensing boilers. Doesn't have to do with the roof.
Right, that was my question.
The variants that are included in that are listed in the report, and it's lighting upgrades.
No, I know, I read the whole thing, I just don't have it printed out in front of me.
That's okay, I was just trying to give you the information that it sounded like you were asking for. I don't know.
She answered it, it does not include a new roof improvement.
I don't know if you can answer this, do condensing boilers, that's not changing boilers, that's just adding attachments or some upgrades to our boilers?
Well, with steam, I believe you have to change the piping, everything with the steam.
Okay,
system.
okay,
it
so
is
fairly
more than
cost,
that,
okay.
I believe, but I can double check.
So these are based on condensing boilers, but the recommendations that you make for upgrading in the renovations are to switch
To propane instead of oil.
to propane
And I-
instead of oil.
I can double check with them if they calculated that in. I
Okay,
don't believe they have. So I'll ask.
because that would be interesting
Yeah.
to know, yeah.
So that's really all I have for now.
You're continuing work on this, like fits and.
We are continuing that work. I did reach out to Sybil and shared that with you, just, if you want to start involving someone with that. And yeah, we're still, the test fits that I show you do have some improvements based on my feedback with your administration team. But we didn't get to all of them just yet. We'll walk through that later.
Thank you. Moving on to item B under new business, which is to review the task force meeting schedule. So Alicia brought this up at the last meeting. I did just hand out a printout to everybody of like what our current meeting schedule is for the rest of the year. And the proposal was to consider adding some meetings over the summer. And what those would look like and sort of, you know, what we should expect here. As I was thinking about this and basically like how to address this, I think, you know, part of what I wanted around this discussion in is sort of like a reality of like where we are in the process with FPA, and then like also considering other work that we know that we want to do and how to factor that into the meeting schedule. Because as we think about what meetings we want to add and when, there would be, I think, incumbent upon some of us to figure out like what information we're looking for in those meetings outside of what she is providing. We've flagged a couple of things over the course of our meetings so far this year. That were things that we would like maybe want to consider. We can talk to you tonight about like which ones are on your plate versus like which ones need to be addressed by the board. I'm sorry, not the board, by the committee. So some of those things are, again, whether and when to commission full civil engineering work that has come up, you know, as we're doing this site that piece, like that's a discussion point we need to have, figuring out if we want to do that for which sites, where the money is coming from for that and so on and so forth. So that's one item that I think we would need to cover during some of the additional meetings. We'll still want to, after we get to a point where we have, I think, a little bit more direction and fewer options, we'll want to talk about the timing of the community input survey, when that's going out, and give people time to like get that filled out and then give us some answers back on that so we can incorporate that into our deliberations. So that's another item of open business that we need to think about. Also still working with Superintendent Souza on trying to better understand like what staffing movement might happen, or like other those plant costs as like things move forward. There's still a lot of options on the table right now. So it's not like a clean sort of like, if we, close this school down, like that means that that person is no longer here because depending on how things get deployed, they might be needed elsewhere. So still trying to figure out how to get to good answers on that. But again, that's an open action item that is data that we want to inform our decision.
Was he also working on overall building cost outside of staffing?
I'm sorry, what was
Was he
that?
also working on like an overall building cost outside of staffing? Like,
Yeah,
Is
sorry,
it-
that's
is
part
that-
of it. It's
that's part of
staffing,
it?
it's,
Okay.
it's like the operational costs, like some of the stuff,
staffing and operations.
pulling some of the energy, like bills and stuff like that. Some of the other costs would be, not just around energy usage, but like our electricity bills, like the water,
Exactly.
all of like any sort of like, the internet exposure and all of that stuff. So yes, that's part of that.
Is there any date, any place that we have to, like if we were going to have a teacher, is there in any of the contracts that says you have to let them know by a certain date?
I mean, ultimately, like, I think if that's in play, I don't think that that's something that would be like applicable to the next school year. We know what the
Okay.
staffing is for that, I don't think we'd be ready to do any of that for the fall. So we can definitely double check that, but I would be surprised if that was a factor that we needed to worry about at this
Okay.
point in time.
So I think we're gonna need a lot of time to discuss the options as a committee. We've got a lot of information thrown at us, but we have not really interacted a lot with each other.
Yeah.
Of what our thoughts are.
Yeah.
And I think we need some time for that, and that's what I was thinking we could do over the summer.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's, I think that those are valuable discussions. I want to kind of like, the reason why I want to go through the list of things that we want to talk about, because I think it will help us determine how many meetings we have. I do just know it's harder to schedule things over the summer, given people's availability. I know that we have been moving at like a pretty rapid clip, but I also know it's like a lot for everybody to like really sit down and think about that. So whether we add like one meeting per month, if we keep on like a 2 or 3 week schedule, like those are things that are just kind of top of mind for me, or like how much of a decision we want to make today. So that's kind of, again, and we'll open it for other discussions before we make any.
I mean, I'd be happy just to have a July and an August meeting at the very least.
And then we can go from there
Yeah.
if there needs to be more sub.
Okay, so I can add one more meeting in July and one more meeting in August, and everybody would feel comfortable with that. I will work, so from a FOIA perspective, we can schedule meetings outside of public meetings, so I'm not gonna have everybody pull up calendars right now, so.
Right.
I'll send out emails to gather availability for everybody to try to narrow down some best fit options, and we'll go from there and have those 2 meetings scheduled by the next time we meet, which will be June 8th. Great, okay. Easy peasy. We'll move on to item F on our agenda, which is open for public comment. Anybody have anything to share with us tonight? Yes, Mr. Carlson?
Have you considered, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Never mind, no, you're.
Have you considered other alternatives other than just simply rebuilding the building?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Have you considered other alternatives that have not been discussed here? And are you open to receiving other alternatives?
I can tell you, I am interested in looking at other options besides what has been put on paper so far. And I think when we get to the next meetings where we're discussing our thoughts, that's where I hope some of that information can come up.
Well, how would that information be presented formally?
I am struggling right now to understand, like, I feel like, so one thing I will say is that we've done everything openly. So all of the options that we have considered are what you have seen throughout the course of this thing. And I do think that we've looked at, so I just want to finish, I understand that you want to say something, but I do feel like we've run the gamut in terms of like understanding the buildings that we have right now, generally speaking, and like what would happen if we weren't using the buildings we have right now in terms of looking at building things new, right? So all of the options were like looking at the facilities and then building things as new. I guess the only other thing that I can think of would be like looking for a new site to build in like an entirely new school, which seems like something, I don't know if anybody's willing to go down that road.
You're still fixed in buildings. You're not considering other alternatives that are actually possible within the concept of the school system. You're simply fixed on buildings.
Do you have any suggestions of what you're,
I do,
okay,
but I would like to present them in a formal setting, not as a comment that, so when you're ready to accept formal suggestions or ideas from the public, not just me, I'd be happy to
I
provide.
think members of the task force have suggestions as well. So far, it's been a download of information to us. Here's options. What we haven't said was, let's take this one, strip it away, decide what programming things we want, what programming things we want, and look at every option individually and say in or out, or narrow it down. Maybe these are in, these are definitely out, and scale it down to something that doesn't require, as much brick and mortar.
Right.
And that's what I hope to get done between now and the end of summer, is to get our input into this as opposed to receiving the information.
would you be willing to email your thoughts to us and then we can
Absolutely
put it
not.
on there?
You just said they're not going to be part of any records. No. I mean, you just wiped out any comment that could be made to this committee. It's not going to be posted to any place.
You're misunderstanding that, you're misunderstanding. You can submit communication. What she was saying, it's not gonna be attached to the emails that come out to us. It will be uploaded on that website,
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
and then we will go there and read it.
It
yeah.
sounded like you were just not going to.
No, that's why the reason I wanted to talk about it was to make it clear that if you were looking for it where it usually is, it will not be there anymore by a decision that was not part of us, but we will continue to publish everything on the website.
Well, it's not going to be there
In
anymore.
the emails.
It's just not gonna be in the email, but it will still be on the website.
It'll be on the website.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And one of
There's
those
a-
things is,
Sorry, there's a difference between what the town is recording, not our decision, the
Yeah.
town's decision,
Okay.
versus what will be uploaded to the
Yeah.
website. So we will maintain all records
Yeah.
of everything, attachments, et cetera, on the website
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
public
Okay.
transparency, but it won't be part of the town
Email.
clerk's record,
These are going to be kind of voluminous.
the town clerk records.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
I mean, I would be very interested if you would write down what your other options are that you're thinking of. And,
I'd be happy to do that in a formal setting.
well, I was gonna say, if you want to write them down, send them to Kristen, who's our chairperson, and she can share them with the rest of us.
He could just email the group task
And she
force.
will email, the rest of us in the group will have them, and we will still all have a copy, and it will still all be on that website dedicated just to the task force. So anybody reading it in town will see, this is what you have suggested, this is what your options.
No, I'm not suggesting anything. I am just saying that there are other options. So these are not suggestions that I'm making, but there are options that the committee ought to look at, in fact, the town ought to look at. Because the road you're going down now is a very expensive road. And here's a problem for this town. The average age in this town is over 50, which means that you have a population like myself that's aging and are going not to be very happy about seeing a major increase in taxes over the next few years. In fact, if you look at the aging of the town, it gets worse. It doesn't get better.
there's a lot of obstacles.
Yeah.
There's that, there is, Regional 7 is talking about putting on a new roof, and we're gonna go through the same situation. They're gonna look at some other things up there that may need to be done. so we're gonna get a price tag from them as well.
Right.
We all know how all the prices have escalated on everything right now,
Yeah,
so we're all feeling the pinch. We're all mindful that these are not government dollars, these are your dollars,
I
these
was
are our
in
dollars.
the superintendent's office up at Region 7. He's got 3 leaking spots in his office alone. So,
Yeah, they're going through that right now. They're going through that right now, that's their next.
but since we are the major supplier of students to Region 7, guess where the major dollars are gonna come from for Region 7? For here. So, alternatives to look at what's gonna happen here in terms of where this town goes with its school system requires looking at other options and investing, in a new building or major construction.
Yeah, I hear everything you're saying, and I'd be interested to hear some of that. I do, again, just want to remind everybody of like the remit of the task force, which is really just about like the use of the buildings in the community. So options like trying to regionalize services with other schools in Regional 7 is beyond the scope of what we can do. Again, I'm certainly willing to hear it, but like that, I don't know how to like take that into consideration for the work that we are tasked with doing right now and the authority that is vested in this committee. So like, again, please send your email. I would like to hear it, but I do want to be mindful of things that are outside the nature of like what we should be doing with the buildings. It may be that we get to a point with the task force and we're like, none of these options are financially viable. If you're looking to save money within the school system, it needs to be sent back to the Board of Ed and to like be discussed with other town members. Like, I don't, that is my understanding of the way that we are structured right now, the authority that we have in relation to some of those decision-making things, particularly for anything that like might require other authoritative bodies to actually move them forward. So please send your suggestions in. We'd love to take a look at them.
Well, my understanding is this group is to make a suggestion to the school board. Is that correct? So you're not
Yes.
bound by discussing the buildings.
This is like a tricky area, and again, I'm just trying to like be very respectful of like all of the work that we've done to get here. The purpose of the task force was set up to evaluate the buildings. That is why it was called the School Facility Utilization Task Force. That is sort of the remit of what we have going on there. Any questions regarding like the operation of the schools or like what is in the budget for the schools? That's really a Board of Ed matter. It is not a matter for this particular task force. And again, I know this, I'm really not trying to overcomplicate things. I just am trying to be very mindful of the authority that we have and the decision-making body that we're here, because not everybody is in this space to make this room. People on the Board of Finance are not imbued with the power to make decisions about the way the schools operate. They can set the amount of money that the school has to operate, but like not like make decisions about like what that operating budget covers. That's a lot of what happens during budget season. It's just sort of like, you get this amount of money and like you have to deploy it the way that it is. So please send your suggestions. I think we would all be interested to like hear that feedback. But I just want to be cautionary about what action we will be able to take based off of the nature of what you're putting in front of us.
Okay, I'll send them to you.
No, send them to that, what is it?
It's NH Task Force at NHTFD.org.
And we'll all see them.
And that goes to, when you send it to that email, it goes to everybody that's sitting up here.
Okay.
Yes.
Shelley Lily, Pioneer Drive. I have a couple things. Michelle, I don't know whether you addressed this or not in what you were saying, because I sort of agree, but not really. Is there a projected cost comparison between the use of propane and oil? I think we need to have that figure. And in addition to just the cost of the fuel itself, the cost of the conversion, especially since one of our boilers is not very old, it's only just 5 years old. So I'd like to see that. I still, I know it's an additional cost, but I would like to see a comparison using some alternative energy sources. Other schools in the area have done it. They've been very beneficial to them in terms of their utility costs. Yes, there's a cost up front, but, you know, with the way costs of other kinds of fuels are escalating right now, we might benefit from at least reviewing that as an option. I honestly think the biggest thing you folks need to do, and it sort of ties in with what this gentleman said, is you really need to hone in on what your options are and try to eliminate some of them and come up with, you know, some reasonable ones. I'm a little unclear about your deadline. To me, it seems like this is sort of an open-ended thing that could go on forever. Is there some kind of like, we have to wrap this up by, name the date, or is this just gonna go on? Well, now we're gonna have meetings in the fall, oh gee, we're not done yet, let's add some for the winter, you know what I mean? It seems like there's and I understand that there, you know, other things have come up and questions need to be answered. You need opportunities to discuss a lot of these various things and questions yourselves, as a committee, I get that. But it seems like there should be sort of like a deadline, you know, because if you don't have one, you're just gonna keep kicking the can down the road.
So in terms of a deadline, we do not have a set deadline. The meeting schedule was just sort of set up to like go through what we know we needed to do and then give space for additional meetings if we needed them. I can speak for the entire task force by saying it's not like we want this to drag on forever. It's just, again, that's sort of why I want to make sure that as we're adding these additional meetings, we're getting good input for everybody on the task force about like what other information we need to source to be able to feel comfortable about making a recommendation. So once we have that, like once we have those things nailed down and have some of those discussion points, I think we'll be able to like move very quickly. The work that Michelle is doing right now in terms of the site fit and like taking a look at the phasing, that is like the next step before we can really start like narrowing things down, in my opinion, because that's the other component of like what it would take to get to any of those solutions. So if we look at those at the next meeting, right? Yeah, if we look at those at the next meeting, then that will be sort of like the point where we start narrowing things down more aggressively. And if we're adding meetings over the summer, then that should help accelerate it. I would really like to not be going into next year, but I also don't want to set a hard deadline and then have like gaping holes in the analysis that like makes nobody feel comfortable with the recommendation. Yes?
Chairman Lloyd, 300 Clear Drive. So are you going to update the timeline somewhere?
I'm sorry?
Are you going to update your timeline when the submitted it's up?
I can update the timeline after we get through some of.
My expectation is that the answer is yes, because you might not want to set a hard deadline, but you do have to set some kind of time frame. And the architect, quite frankly, with all respect, can't be on call for the next year and a half or something like that. In fact, I don't know what their terms of contract are, but more importantly, your decisions feed other decisions and other thoughts. So it's useful to know that your target date might be arbitrarily August. I just made that up, I'm not suggesting it would. Right now, when I look at the documentation, it was completely open-ended. And the two meetings I've been to sort of allude to an ongoing process, which I understand and is very beneficial and necessary. But I think I need to hear, I need to hear some sort of not so much end date, but target of when you anticipate being prepared to present something about your proposed final decision. You've done a lot of work. It's very interesting and useful. There's more work to be done. I think there's more input that you probably need from a lot of people. Hopefully you'll get that. But you can't work overnight. You have to have a target date. And that's the biggest thing for me right now when I look at all your documents on the website. And that's why I asked you, there was a date on the timeline, it's not done yet, but you're not going to make it, obviously. So.
Yeah, I hear everything you're saying, and again, I'm in agreement with you. In terms of the timeline and the timeline checking that we did, like, the timeline so far has been built around, like, Michelle getting us, like, final good recommendation. And it's been open-ended after that, because again, we have some of the outstanding discussion that we need to have as a task force regarding what other information we need to have, make sure we get time from the community to get this input there. But I think we can talk about like setting a firm timeline at the next meeting and give everybody time to think about this, review the list of other items that we want to talk about, and make sure we have a clean work stream outside of the work that Michelle has been doing. Because while I've enjoyed your presence, I don't anticipate you like being at all of the rest of the meetings. At some point, your work will be done, but there may be work that the town still has to do after that.
I just want to make a minor comment. Michelle's timeline is driven by your timeline. You can't be driven by Michelle's timeline. Now, she has a lot of work to do and has done a lot of work, and don't need to talk to you, we've got you as a third party. And at some point, that will come to an end. But if you don't know when your end date is, or what your anticipated end date is, you can't tie it to when Michelle's work is done. You need to set a scope and say, I need it done by X. Whatever it is, however it is. So I don't need to say it anymore, but please, I would request that you set.
That timeline was the June meeting. That
Right, it
initial,
needs to be updated, is my point. And it needs to be wrapped around your end date, not you being driven by her.
okay, understood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Awesome, thank you. I'm gonna close public comment for now. Move on to item
Do
G
you
on
have
the
anybody
agenda.
virtual?
I'm sorry?
Do you have anybody virtual, just to make sure that?
Anyone online who wants to add a public comment, please raise your hand. No, okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you for the reminder. Moving on to item G, old business. The first update is an update from the Stakeholder Engagement Committee.
Stakeholder Engagement Committee, that's us. So we have revision 3 of this faculty survey. We feel like it's a much better product than it was initially with adding the input that we got from different people. So thank you to everybody who gave us input. And so I'd like to pass these out. And we would like to get approval to move forward with this. Again, this is for faculty and school staff.
I will make a motion to approve this survey for the faculty and school staff for discussion.
Second.
Yeah, seconded by, motion by Kristen to approve for discussion, seconded by John, so that we can all take a moment and read it if we haven't had time, and then we can move to discussion.
I may have missed it, but they probably did. How did you plan to,
This will be an online survey.
thank you. It's like you could read my mind.
We'll leverage the superintendent Susan to make sure that the
Okay.
staff gets it and get a reasonable turnaround time.
And would
Yeah.
it be reaching everybody in town
No, this is just, this is only for
online?
faculty,
Yeah.
school faculty and school employees.
So will
So,
you be doing anything for the rest of the town?
yes, we will. You're on that committee, right?
I know, I haven't been there recently.
Yes, that would be, once we have some reasonable options that we can present, then that would be the goal with that survey.
Thank you.
I would think that the public one would be more towards the end of the summer, based upon what we still have to discuss here and narrow down some of those options. Because I don't feel comfortable asking anybody anything yet, because it's just like asking them now, what do you think? And they would have many different avenues, so. So we'll start with teachers and staff, and that could help add in information to help direct us a little, not direct us, but have their input while we're discussing this stuff over the summer.
So as you can see, we've made a lot of changes. We're open to comments tonight if you have any.
And if anybody wanted to see what it, like the link to see what it would look like on a user interface type of side, we can totally forward that over so you can click through it and see.
You wouldn't have Jeff just set us up using a Google form and sending it out?
This has better, using the platform that we have, Lime Survey,
Line survey,
has better analytics than Google Forms.
but he did say that he would distribute it,
Okay,
yes.
Okay.
So,
This is still a free platform.
Yep.
But yeah.
I knew there was no cost to it, I just was thinking from the like distribution and like
yeah, no,
making sure that it was only people that would.
no, he said he would distribute it,
Great.
which will probably help with the response rate too, so that.
Yeah. Any other discussion on the survey? All those in favor?
Thank you for the work in this. With the intro portion, is there a reason that we varied from the kind of standard description we have on the website?
I just took notes from everything we had and put this together, but I can change it to
I
make it.
was just for consistency of,
Sure, I can do that. So for the description of
just,
the,
yeah, because we have our standard overview of what the task force is, that way we'll just be consistent with, it's similar.
oh, I see, okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
That way there's, I think this also, if we're being just unbiased, this does narrow some of the options relative to this, and so that way we're just being consistent for how we're describing it here, how we're describing it here, so we can do the survey.
Okay.
Pointing at the information on the website, for like the preview that we all agreed to at the beginning of the process when we all went through it and worked on it together, so we just saying we should incorporate that instead of
The
just
why.
one word.
Yeah, there's, I mean, minus the end, the what's not really relevant, but yeah, the why and the what, I think are, even maybe the who there, just if it's relevant, but I mean, basically we have some great information right here that can be used to help frame this.
We'll use a small amount of that.
Yeah, exactly, that's why I love, yeah, not the whole thing, the whole thing would be too much for,
If you couldn't hear that, I said, we will use a small amount of that.
yeah,
Yeah, I was gonna say, is it more wordy?
yeah, it gets
It
long,
won't get through the
Yeah.
beginning
there's
part to answer the
old
questions.
detail there, so yeah,
Okay.
just the essence of the why and the what are helpful.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Great. I will amend my motion to adopt the survey as amended during this meeting.
So we can make that change
Yes.
and go forward.
That's the motion I'm making. Please execute that. If possible, to have, Jeff has communicated that it should be easy to turn around, so maybe we can have the results by the next meeting.
When's the next meeting?
June 8th. So we've got a week and a half.
Definitely before school's out, we should have this.
Yeah. We will try.
Anybody second her motion? You didn't second it, I think.
I'll second it.
All those in favor? That was unanimous. All right, team, thank you for your work on that.
Okay.
We can get that out and then, all right. Item B under old business is any updates from the financial impact subcommittee? Additional.
No, I think we're done.
For
Yeah,
now.
we did it.
Okay.
Yeah, unless
Yeah.
other things come up
Yeah,
that.
We're just gonna leave this as a thing. I'm gonna leave you guys formed in case we need other things as we work through it, but, all right, great.
Yeah, no updates from last meeting.
Okay. Moving on to item H, action steps for next meeting. So this is going to be slightly confusing. We have to change the date of the next meeting from June 10 to June 8th. For the purposes of public meetings, it now looks like it's a special meeting because it was a regular meeting that got moved. There is no change to like anything else. We just had to move the date. So there's no special content, there's no anything. We should be looking at site fit test results by that point in time from Michelle, as well as talking about, I think, the other information. Ideally, I'd like to be talking a little bit more in depth about the other information and how we want to tackle the summer meetings internally, but that's what you should expect for the next meeting. On Monday, June 8th at 7 p.m. right here in Hampton Lady Library.
And I don't know if special meetings apply the same to committees as boards, but I know with boards, you cannot change the agenda for special meetings, so just be cognizant of that as you build the agenda
As the
to
agenda.
factor in everything and anything.
Okay, thank you for the heads up on that. I'm very lucky to have the assistance of Sarah Vogel, who is a true professional with this, keeping me on the straight and narrow.
Yep.
So thanks, Sarah.
Before we move on to the next item,
Yes,
because we're gonna be in executive session, and I will not be at the June 8th meeting.
yes,
I'm not available that night.
Yep.
I wanted to make sure I put this in the meeting minutes of what my thoughts are that are still outstanding, because I expect that that's what we're gonna talk about on June 8th. So
Got
I
it.
just would like to put this in the minutes for tonight. I mentioned shared, this is not in any way, in any order, okay? So I mentioned shared services last time, and I understand your position of we're limited with what we can recommend.
Yep.
Right? But I think that that's something that the Board of Ed does need to look at again, is shared services, which is a company that provides different types of services to the other schools in our regional system. Are they able to, aid us with saving any money on whatever we need them to do? Because they'll provide, a wide variety of services or just a narrow amount of services, right? I think that's one thing that needs to be looked at again. Still looking at that energy performance contract.
Yep.
I did talk to Dan Jerem, and he's just kind of busy right now. So he was thinking this Board of Selectmen might be able to get a representative to talk to them maybe in our July meeting, on the Board of Selectmen meeting. I'll push for that, see if we can get that. I'm really interested in just learning more about that as we figure out, what if, especially if we're going to change over to a different type of fuel, right? I really have a strong opinion on the consolidation. I really think that we can consolidate into 2 schools without major additions. I know we're gonna look at some of the footprints. I like how, New Hartford Elementary was built out a little bit, not that addition here, but, a little bit of it, build out a little bit. And I think if we can use that, and we can use some maybe different configurations up here, I'd like to see us pursue that option as well. Where'd Ollie go? Ollie's gone.
He left.
Yeah.
At your place.
I'd also like us to consider a recommendation of only 2 sections of pre-K if we can't fit everything we need with 3 sections of pre-K. Again, a lot of stuff we're gonna be talking about, how we're gonna configure things, but I really think that that's something that should be considered. Once we if we get down to 2 schools, we do need to understand what that means for the bus transportation. So that's something that's still outstanding to do, but we're not ready to get that information yet. And we'll have to discuss how we go forward with forming a building committee, because none of us is qualified to recommend what work needs to be done to these schools. I'm certainly not gonna recommend everything that's on the plate. I'm not gonna get in front of the town and say, you need to spend $50 million or $70 million, because I will not do that. So we need a building committee to figure out what exactly we can do and can afford.
Can I ask a quick question for that one? Where, do you have any ideas of where the people for that would come from?
It's generally volunteers. It's a board, the Board of Selectmen has made building committees in the past. I'm not sure about the last renovation that was done by the school. Who formed that building committee? Those were a lot of them were all headed up by Denton Butler in the past. And I'm kind of expecting he's not going to be available to do that. There are a couple people on the Board of Ed that have some building experience, right? Yeah. So I would tap into them, right? Okay. But it's usually just a volunteer group of people that have the time and are able to oversee. But before we get to that, what are we building? Right. What are we going to do first?
Well,
and you have to have the approval to spend the money, and then form the committee.
Okay. And again, I think what you're saying, some of the stuff makes sense, and again, I would, again, outside the purview of the task force, in particular, like the building committee, I agree with you. the purview of the task force is to make a recommendation about how the buildings should be used and what we think is the best path forward. It's not approving a budget, it's not approving a specific plan. We're doing all of these concepts to better understand and like visualize what some of that stuff would look like, but there would be an entire process after that I think.
Yes, I don't know how we could recommend any kind of building renovations, you know. I really, I just don't know how we could do that, you know, to say we need a new school, or we are recommending you build as new, or something like that. Or maybe it is just doing facility conditions, and we have to leave it up to what the Board of Ed might be able to decide what they want to do. This is all new for us, right?
Yeah.
How we go forward, what are the steps in what order? Ultimately, it's the townspeople that decide how much money they're gonna spend or not.
Right.
And that's why I've been putting forth, projects in front of the town for a number of years, as has Ben and Penny and Carrie. And we've never proposed anything of this magnitude, ever. And I can't see us supporting spending $50 million, even if it's gonna have all the bells and whistles. So, yeah, how do we go forward with that? Yeah, we're still taking our steps there. If we go to 2 schools and we have second grade up here, what are the lunch waves gonna look like? Right, I think that's important for everybody to know. And I think long-term down the road, if we start seeing a growth, which is not something that this task force will do, that's maybe when we talk about, hey, maybe we can get 6th grade up to Regional 7. What are the other towns' thoughts on that? It shouldn't be disregarded, but I understand that's not something that our task force is going to be able to wrap around. So I just want to get those thoughts down in the minutes, because I'm not going to be here in the June meeting.
Thanks so much for that, and I've incorporated some of that stuff. I have a longer list that I was not able to read earlier about some of the open decisions that I still think are out there, so I will make sure that some of these things are in there. Regarding shared services and like the number of pre-K classrooms, that's the Board of Ed remit. So I would like those decisions sit with the Board of Ed,
Yeah.
whether or not we're using shared services and whether or not how many sections of pre-K that we have. So I would not consider that a factor in the decisions that we are making right now. So I just want to finish talking here. So in terms of the open decisions that we have, it's not something that I would expect us to figure out how to solve. So I think you should send that communication to the Board of Ed to kind of like ask for that input, but it's not a decision for us to make here.
But if I can, yes, sorry, go.
No, my question is, I know at the Board of Ed meetings, they do have a chair report for you to just bring over some of the stuff that we've talked about. I don't know if it's the right place for you to just be like, this was something that was discussed that, should potentially be looked at, and just say, hey, could we potentially look at this from a Board of Ed standpoint that way? I mean, yes, at least you can totally email it to the board as well, but I don't know if that would just be another avenue to be like, hey.
I can certainly share that information. I don't,
Right.
I can certainly share the information.
Yeah, and that's pretty much all our purview does line with this year.
John, weren't you, in the last meeting, you were tasked with gathering some information about pre-K and bringing it back to us?
Yep, so there's, there'll be yeses on that one. I have some helpful information now. There'll be additional update coming on next week's Board of Education meeting. And so obviously anyone's welcome to that meeting as well. So when we get to the point, we can definitely talk about the pre-K piece. And then I don't have all the details on the shared services. I know that there was already a relay back to the Board of Ed in terms of shared services. I don't know what all was looked at, but I know there was some previous research into shared services before I joined the board about, and the conclusion was that it does not make sense, at least at that point. I don't know about going forward. So again, there is that two-way here. And so this shared services piece, as Kristen said, can be brought back and then more information shared, so.
Do you know if they'll be talking about it again? Other than
Shared
just,
services, I don't know when. The pre-K piece I do know will be next week's meeting, and I'll have more information for our discussion as well.
Okay.
We can take that, I mean, as Kristen said, I can't speak on behalf of the Board of Ed, but in terms of us bringing it back, we can definitely, and Penny as well, we can definitely do that, and then, similar to the pre-K piece, work to bring information back.
Okay, thanks.
Can I ask you a question? On the committee that they formed, with that, that big plaque that's out in the main hallway that shows who was on the last building committee, when do they pick the civil engineer that's supposed to be, is that part of that group?
Oh, how,
Is that person part of that group, or is that person picked after all these other little volunteers have said, yes, I'll be on this committee to help, and then they elect, or they appoint?
I think they probably, knowing Denton, they probably did RFPs and evaluated, what came back and picked someone at that
Okay.
point.
Don't we have some civil engineers in town that might be able to help?
Well, I don't know if they would help, I think they would want to be paid,
Right,
right?
yeah, I mean, we can pay them, but
For a small part of the
cookies and chocolates.
praises.
I think that, to pick a civil engineer in order to go forward, I don't know that we would pick the civil engineer. I would look to Dan for advice because, he knows what firms do what.
I didn't know if there was any, I don't know what civil engineers do, first of all, but I mean, I don't know if there's some that are just for schools or some that are just for,
I'm sure there's some that specialize in schools,
Okay.
yeah.
And we also have a consulting firm here who can make recommendations.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
I
that
did
young
reach out to
lady
the
back there
library.
had a question, she had her hand raised. Oh,
I don't know if I'm allowed to speak, yeah, so I can wait.
Well, we had some
Was in
comment,
regards to one of the comments that you had made? It's up to you.
It's up to the task force. We're outside the open for public comment, but
I'm fine with allowing more comment.
So Taylor Johnson, 182 Gillette Road, in regards to like minimizing like the pre-K program, I think from a parent standpoint, you are stating that our numbers are going down as our school numbers, right? Like our enrollment numbers are going.
I didn't say that.
Okay, so as a standpoint of the town, everybody's saying that our enrollment numbers are going down, or they're down, right?
Well, they're down from what they were 10 years ago.
Okay, but we added a third pre-K program, which makes our numbers go up, right? Essentially, instead of like outsourcing these kids, because a lot of parents in town, if they can't get into the pre-K program, will bring their kids to, let's just say, the master's school or Torrington Christian Academy, which puts them out of the school system completely. Like, at that point, they're enrolled somewhere else, they're not coming back here. So I think that if we're gonna close down a third pre-K program, we are getting rid of more kids that could be in these school systems. And I think if we have the means behind it, the parents are paying for it, right, for that third one? They're not paying for it at all?
It's subsidized.
They're not paying any money?
They're paying money, I just don't know, I still have not seen a full accounting of how much money is being drawn in and how
I do-
much it
I
costs.
want to kind of
Just
limit
under-
some of the back and forth here.
Out of respect to everyone, I think that it'd be more productive, a more use of everyone's time for us to attend the Board of Education meeting next week. And then and then if folks are not able to attend that, obviously they're recording the minutes. I'll also be back with more information to help provide a grounded perspective objectively that can help inform all sides of this conversation.
That's perfect. It's hard to just hear like from one person specifically on task force to say that they're so one-sided and we haven't even gotten presented everything yet. So it's hard to hear.
And I hear what you're saying and I understand. I mean, there are some other external factors regarding like the pre-K program. Like one factor that is a reason that we like need to support more enrollment is the fact that the kindergarten age got moved. So there are kids who are at birth to 3. Once they turn 3, they become the responsibility of the school district. But once the age of enrollment got pushed back, several months that like shifted, like the actual burden of time from 3 to the start of kindergarten is a longer time period and can cover an additional school year for some kids. So like there are some like underlying factors that
Legal.
contribute, the legal factors
legal
that like
factors, yeah.
contribute to like the size of the pre-K program and sort of how we're doing it. So again, the Board of Ed is going to like talk about that in more detail, as well as some of the like the financial mechanics of some of it in the meeting next week. But I do just want to say like, I wanted to just share that information, in terms of like knowing some of what we know right now about why, what were the underlying reasons for the expansion.
And just, pause on pre-K for right now to, yeah.
Yeah, my last statement was like solely for like the entire situation, not just for the pre-K program. I think we're seeing like, we're hearing that this is where I'm at, and that's it. And I think we need to not say anything until we have everything on the table and every option is there for everybody.
Well, I think we get there by discussing things and discussing ideas.
Just as a point of interest, maybe you can find out what portion of it is self-funding. Doesn't mean you do it or you don't do it, but at least you understand how much of it is.
Yeah, so
funded by
part of what,
tuitions.
I'll give a slight preview based off of what I can in terms of like some of the,
I think we're gonna find a thing if we start inching these waters, either
Yeah,
we
you're
tackle
right.
the topic or we don't. And I think out of respect for everyone's time, we tackle the topic properly and let's just
you're right.
agree to pause for now, if that's,
Yes,
okay.
I agree. I second that.
we'll go into a lot of detail what you're looking for to help understand how
it gets
that happens.
detailed quickly, so let's, so very valid questions, not to take away from the questions, just to properly discuss it when the time comes.
Yeah.
So,
The Board of Ed meeting is next, let me pull up my calendar just as I don't here, I'm pretty sure it's next Tuesday, June 2nd
7 o'clock.
at 7 o'clock.
Perfect.
Also here in Anthony, but it is also available online. It is recorded and shared to YouTube within 24 hours. It's a different channel than ours, but it is still available. So, for more information on pre-K, tune in.
And also, can also bring information back here, but just,
Will you also be letting the board know we're breaking even?
well, there's,
Are you breaking even?
let's just-
I have to stop
Yeah,
discussion
that's-
on pre-K. We don't, nobody here is prepared to give a full
Right, but I mean,
accounting
next week,
of
will
the
you be able
program.
to tell us that?
If not, Michael's gonna talk.
After the Board of
Director,
Education
okay,
meeting, there will be
okay.
more information.
I mean, next week I'd like to know, are we breaking even with whatever we're,
I think there's also,
That's it. You can bring that question.
Yeah,
up.
I think that's a question.
I second.
Yeah. I mean, the
Motion
question
of no
is,
more
yeah,
pre-K discussion.
let's hit.
We've got a lot to cover today.
Yeah.
This is completely off topic.
Let's move
Wait
to
a
Yeah.
second. Yes,
Okay,
this
so
is
let's-
not part of our-
For tonight it is, yes.
We are gonna move to executive session, people. So, we are moving to executive session. We'll be looking at, some of the floor plans the proposed floor plans for the interior of the building. We're moving to executive session because this is a security issue. So we're gonna ask you all to leave. I do not anticipate us taking any action out of this session. This is really just informational. Quite honestly, I will also be talking about restricting the discussion during the executive meeting because I don't want us to have a lot of substantive discussion that we could have in public when the real purpose of this is just the security of understanding the layout of the school. So keep an eye out on the minutes because if we do take any action out of that, we will do that when we come out of executive session, and that information will be recorded in the minutes.
And that's it for the evening.
We're never done for the minute, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, we're gonna shut down.
We need also motion to go in.
Oh, yes, can I take I'll take a motion to move to executive session for the purpose of discussing concerning possible modifications to existing buildings under renovation scenarios.
Second.
Moved by Sam, second by Kenny. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Okay.